BigQuery is one of currently 53 data sources supported by Spotfire natively. Most of these sources support push-down queries, so you can, based on interactivity your users do with visualizations, filters, etc., queries will be generated live and pushed down into these data sources, and that includes BigQuery, of course. So let's assume that you have Spotfire 10.4 or a later release installed and running on your Windows machine. What you will see is then when you click the plus sign up here, you click Connect to, you will see the list of all the connectors supporting these 53 sources. If we search, we will find that we have Google Analytics and Google BigQuery available. In this video, we're looking at BigQuery, so I'm clicking that one, and we can instantly see that the connector allows you to log in using your Google account. So click the sign in with Google button, and that will launch your system web browser. If you're already logged into Google, maybe you're using the console or other Google services like Gmail, you will probably already be authenticated. So you just need to select an account if you're using multiple accounts. You also need to allow Spotfire to access your Google data, and with that you're logged in. Then there are other key features. The first one is billing project. So as I said previously in the video, BigQuery charges you for process bytes, and those charges, those queries need to be billed to a certain project. And you can select that in the billing project selector here, and talk to customers. It looks like it's common to have one billing project for development and another billing project for production. For example, your marketing team may want to be billed for the analysis files they are running in production, but not for the actual development cost. In this case, I'm selecting Spotfire Development as my billing project. The next question or choice you need to answer is if you would like enable repeated columns or not. Once again, this is common with Google Analytics data. Could also be common with other use cases. There's also a direct link where you can read up on the details when it comes to this type of columns, because Spotfire will behave a little bit different when these are used. And the third option is show public data or not. Maybe you would like to play around with some of the extensive collection of public data provided by Google. Click that button, and that will be made available for you in the next dialog here. Keep in mind that if you are using public data, it could take a while to load those tables because Google provides a lot of public data for you to play around with and to get familiar with BigQuery. If you're not interested, there is a preference so that you can remove this option, so that end users simply don't have the option of using public data. And you can of course also not check that checkbox if you're only interested in your own organization's data. We have our list of data tables available. As you can see, the list is fairly long. In this demo, I'm focusing on one of the sample data sets called Air Quality Annual Summary. So I'm adding that to my view, which means it's part of the connection to BigQuery and will be visible in Spotfire, and this is what I'm basing my analysis upon. I also wanted to highlight that we support partitions, Google BigQuery partitions, which is a way to basically partition data into different partitions based on date times. So you can do that on ingestion time, and you can do it on any other date time column you have. Keep in mind that doing it on ingestion time could introduce a risk that certain events that you collect may end up in the wrong partition if the event comes in a little bit late. So events can be late, stored later, and then BigQuery will of course put it in a partition where that event actually doesn't belong, because the event itself wasn't generated during that time frame. So keep that in mind if you're using partitions based on ingestion date. Maybe you prefer to use another date of when the actual event took place. Spotfire has a pretty neat feature that allows you to use these partition tables and Spotfire basically automatically create parameters for you, so you will have prompts. So you will be prompted to enter from date, time, and a to date time. So when your end users are using the analysis file, they will be requested to add a time frame, which will select a few partitions and reduce the bytes processed, which is important for speed, but also for cost, process-based cost. So use partitions with clustering underneath if you would like to take it even further and sort data according to additional columns. Use the partitions filter, use the automatically created prompts. In this demo, we are looking more at the air quality annual summary dataset. Just to mention, we have relations, of course. You can create relations between your tables and BigQuery. You can create your own custom query, custom SQL towards BigQuery if you prefer that. We have support for primary keys. You can define your own prompts in addition to prompts generated when using partition tables. With that, let's click continue, and we will see that we have BigQuery added to my summary view. This is Spotfire 10's view that allows you to review what data you're about to add. Here we can see that you have some data loading settings available. You can import data, you can define on-demand data loading of data from BigQuery, and you can keep the data external, which means queries will be pushed into BigQuery. A lot of our customers are using fairly large data sets in BigQuery and prefer to keep data in BigQuery and not copying those rows into Spotfire, and that's what I will do in this demo as well, use the external option and push down queries. All right, once connected, when we have read the metadata, Spotfire tells us that our data is ready. We will see that we have everything we need when it comes to columns in the data panel, and we're ready to start analyzing our data. If we go to the source view, we can see that we have our data source here, we have the final data table here, and we're able to do some data wrangling here if we prefer that. So one example could be to simply add a calculated column. In this case, let's do something slightly more cool. We have a column called sample duration, which is a string column. And with a small regular expression, we're able to remove all the characters and only keep the numerical values from this column. And we can also cast the column from string to integer. Let's look at the preview of this expression just to make it easier to explain what we're doing. As you can see, the result after our expression is 24 instead of 24 space hour, and we can see that we have some additional examples over here. So this is just an example of the powerful functions available in BigQuery. You can do a lot of data wrangling, you can do a lot of cleansing using custom expressions like this one, and we can give the column a name, sample duration, new, for example. And then we can see that we have an additional batch added. We can see that we have a new calculated column over here. We can go in and edit it if we need to through the source view. If we go back to the data panel, we can see that we now have a new column available. Let's see. So let's search instead, which is much quicker. Sample duration new. All right. So let's use that. Let's create, why not a bar chart like that. Let's put something on the categorical axis, maybe county. county code, county name. Let's put state name. Let's change order like that, and then use our new calculated column on the numerical axis like that. Maybe we will prefer to have the bars horizontally so it's easier to read. Categorical values like that. And we can also create a hierarchy of these two columns added. A hierarchy means it's easier to switch between the hierarchy levels, so we get a slider basically like that. We can also color by something. Why not color by state, just to make it a bit more beautiful, like that. All right, so that's basically a very quick way of accessing, connecting, selecting BigQuery data and run some interactive queries on top of it. Thank you for tuning in. I will leave a lot of good links in the description below so it's easier for you to find the documentation, the system requirements, everything else you need to connect to BigQuery. Not to miss any future videos from the Spotfire team, please click the subscription link below, and see you again in the next video. Customers I talk to are in the middle of a digital transformation. They all have to store, wrangle, and analyze larger and larger amounts of data from a variety of data sources. Many have chosen Google Cloud for these purposes, and many are already running TIBCO Spotfire on Google Cloud or are planning to run TIBCO Spotfire on Google Cloud together with their data. Google BigQuery is the enterprise data warehouse for Google Cloud. It's designed for business analytics, it's feature-rich, easy to use, and cost-effective, given that it scales from a few gigabytes to multiple petabytes. This is also why I see Spotfire customers moving their on-premises data warehouses to BigQuery. And this is also why it's important for TIBCO as an independent provider of the BI platform TIBCO Spotfire to provide native support and built-in support for analytics on top of Google BigQuery. In today's video, we're going to look at Spotfire's built-in integration with Google BigQuery, an integration introduced in Spotfire 10.4, June 2019. So, before you start analyzing Google BigQuery data in Spotfire, there are a few things you need to prepare in Google BigQuery itself. We have an extensive section in our documentation which helps you get started with everything you need to get the integration up and running in as short time as possible. We have the system requirements, of course. We have information about the Google account requirements so that you're able to authenticate your users. We have a complete chapter about billing in Google BigQuery, which is an important aspect of it because Google charges you per processed byte, which is important to know. And there are some features in Spotfire that helps you control and monitor the number of bytes processed. Then we could quickly get into the how you connect to BigQuery, which is the description of the Spotfire part of the integration. We have a chapter about repeated columns, which are essentially the way Google Analytics data is stored in BigQuery. So if you're interested in Google Analytics data and Google Analytics through BigQuery, that's an important section to read up on. We also have, of course, a description of all the data types supported by BigQuery, the supported functions, and there are quite a lot of functions supported, which is important because Functions is essentially what you need and use to do analytics and calculations on top of BigQuery. There's also a section about how you enable Google BigQuery on Spotfire web clients, the Spotfire server. There are a few steps and a few configurations you need to do. If you run Spotfire on cloud, you don't need to do these, of course, they come out of the box, but if you're running Spotfire servers on premises, this is an important chapter to be aware of. And automating things as Spotfire logs you in using personal credentials on your web browser. When you automate Spotfire to do things in the background, you need to use service accounts with Google BigQuery, and there is a chapter describing how you do that in combination with automation services and scheduled updates on the Spotfire side. All right, so basically read the documentation. It will make your life easier as you follow along this in this video.